our family came to this country in 1630. Last name is Case, C-A-S-E. And we landed in Ipswich, Massachusetts in 1630, and 3 brothers survived the trip. The father died on the way over from England. And the 3 brothers went up to Simsbury County and established Hartford, Connecticut with 15 families. And then after about 3 generations, one of them left there and went to New York and married a young lady, and they ended up in Iowa. And they had my great-great-grandfather, Philo Case. And he was a drummer boy in the Battle of Shiloh. And that's a photograph there of him with the drum around the turn of the century. And the Union Army was encamped at Shiloh, and the South snuck up on him and ambushed him. And he grabbed the drum and drummed the long roll, beat the long roll to muster the men to grab their weapons and fight. The battle went on for 3 days, and there were over 3,000 men that lost their lives. It was a bloody battle, one of the bloodiest. His favorite general was General Sherman, so much so that he named his firstborn son Sherman Case, and that's my great-grandfather. And he was a school teacher and opened up schools in Idaho, Montana, and Washington, and ended up in the state of Washington. My side of the family was born but with his first wife. But his first wife passed away, and he married one of his pupils. And what's kind of interesting is that she has some valued interest in this whole story. But I will say that when General Sherman retired, General Sherman came to Los Angeles and bought a ranch out in the San Fernando Valley called Sherman Oaks. And my great-great-grandfather, Philo Case, came with him as his personal secretary until General Sherman passed away. And I do have a photo, it's not available right now, of my great-great-grandfather in a 1903 Oldsmobile in Los Angeles in 1903. And everybody in town showed up to see it offloaded off a flat car because they'd never seen a moving vehicle before. And it looked like a buckboard with a stick that you steer it with, and a high seat and a little engine behind it. Now to go on to Sherman Case as a school teacher, and he married his second wife, and they were married for 50 years. And she died on their 50th wedding anniversary night, the celebration. And I met with her and talked with her many, many times up in Sunnyside, Washington. But the interest of her is that she was the niece of John Wilkes Booth.
Wow.
And John Wilkes Booth supposedly was caught in the barn by the Union Army, and they didn't want to enter the barn because Booth wouldn't come out and they were afraid of getting hurt, so they torched the barn off. And the barn burned down. Well, Booth actually escaped out the back, and the burned body that the Army retrieved was either a farmer or a rancher that was in the barn at the time. And Booth may have had a scuffle with him at that time and knocked him out, or actually maybe murdered him or killed him, I don't know. But Booth escaped and made it up to the Yakima, Washington area, and my step-great-grandmother, I talked with her many times about this, and she remembers as a small girl seeing Booth show up after the assassination of Lincoln in the Yakima Valley. And he died a natural death up there and is buried up there. My step-uncle, or great-uncle, Arthur Case, owns Arts Food Centers in Seattle. He's now since passed away, and his son Scotty more than likely runs them. But Arthur Case did his master thesis on this subject in the 1950s, and the history professors wouldn't let him publish. Now, I got to thinking about this whole thing and why this all happened the way it did. And it comes to mind that there was a faction in the Union Army that didn't like Lincoln. And it's a matter of record that when they pulled the burned body out of the barn, they cremated it immediately to put the matter at rest. And very possibly it was by some of the people who didn't like Lincoln to start with. So I think today, if I could get a hold of the manuscript from Scotty, which I haven't had a chance to do because I've been a little busy here, up in Sunnyside or up in Seattle, you could probably locate maybe where Booth might have been buried and do a DNA and prove one way or the other. There is some evidence that Booth stopped at a family member's house during his escape to Washington, and also a friend's house along the way during his escape. But it's never really been verified that much, and at that time it does stand to reason that they didn't know anything probably about what had happened to Lincoln. News didn't travel very fast back then. When Sherman, or when Philo Case was out here, that's him right there in that photograph, with General Sherman, he joined a drum and fife corps here in California. And I believe in about 1880, he was in a drum and fife corps up and down the state campaigning for Governor Johnson. I think it was Governor Johnson. And he carried this 12-gauge shotgun, double-barrel shotgun, and this shotgun is not sawed off or made short. It was made that way. And they called it a saddle gun. My granddad called it a snake gun. And I kind of said, "You mean for the two-legged variety?" And my granddad laughed and he said, "Yeah, well, maybe." There's also two fifes that are here that were part of the drum and fife corps. And these are the original drumsticks right here. And they're made of rosewood. And if you'd like to step up and look through the percussion hole of this drum, you're welcome to. I ask you not to touch it. But there's a photograph of the whole drummer crew at Shiloh. And also there's an etching of all the presidents up to that time. So, this is a snare drum. Most snare drums are only about that tall, and this thing looks like a tenor drum, because a tenor drum is this size. But it clearly has the snares on the bottom of it, and it is a tenor drum, or a snare drum. You see the snares, the strings. Okay. Okay, you're welcome to walk up and take a look in that hole right there. That's the percussion hole.
Where? Where's the hole? It's amazing.